Welcome to our channel. Today we're exploring the remarkable life and career of country music legend Barbara Mandrell. From her early days as a musical prodigy to becoming a trailblazing star in the world of country music, Barbara's journey is a testament to talent, determination, and resilience. But her story is not without its struggles, including a devastating car accident that changed her life forever. Join us as we uncover the highs and lows of Barbara Mandrell's incredible career and personal life in this in-depth look at her legacy. Born Barbara Ann Mandrell on December 25, 1948 in Houston, Texas, she began life with music already woven into her DNA. It's like destiny placed a steel guitar in her tiny hands, urging her to discover the vibrant rhythms hidden in its strings. Her mother was musically inclined and brought her rural Wayne County, Illinois roots into the family, while her father, Irby, was a veteran of World War II who later served as a police officer in Garland County, Arkansas. Some might say that combination of creative flair from her mom and determined discipline from her dad set the stage for Barbara's unstoppable drive. She wasn't alone, though. Two younger sisters, Thelma Louise and Eleanor Lean, would eventually join her in musical pursuits, collectively transforming the Mandrell household into a mini conservatory where country tunes, laughter, and plucky beats were as common as morning coffee. Barbara was just a little girl when she began absorbing the basics of music, teaching herself instruments as though it were child's play. She mastered the steel guitar first, that twangy staple of country music. Picture that image for a second. A bright-eyed youngster, barely tall enough to reach the strings, showing more talent and composure than many seasoned performers. Before long, she was also reading music, experimenting with the accordion, and letting her curiosity roam as she soaked up every note and chord she could find. It was clear that she was on a path to greatness, especially after her father whisked her off to a music trade convention in Chicago just a few years later. Imagine the bustling halls filled with established producers, session musicians, and industry bigwigs, all crossing paths with this little phenomenon who could play the steel guitar like she'd been born to do it. Among those impressed were RCA Records producer and legendary picker Chet Atkins and bandleader Joe Mathis, who both recognized that Barbara was not just talented for her age, she was talented, period. Those early encounters soon snowballed into bigger opportunities. Before Barbara was even a teenager, she found herself performing in several musical showcases and live events. It was as though she'd been invited to share the stage with the very pillars of American music: Red Foley, Tex Ritter, Johnny Cash, the crowd pleasers of their era. Audiences were used to seeing guitar virtuosos, but rarely someone so young whose fingers danced on the steel guitar with the precision and flair of a well-seasoned professional. By the early 1960s, she was already making her way onto television. Her national TV debut was on NBC's Five-Star Jubilee in 1961, an experience that would propel her further into the public eye. And that was just the start. With so much skill under her belt, and quite a collection of instruments as well, Barbara continued exploring more sounds and styles. The saxophone, banjo, and accordion soon followed. Along the way, she toured with some of country music's greatest icons, including Patsy Cline, Johnny Cash, and George Jones. One of the magical elements of Barbara's story is how easily she seemed to blend in with these legends, not just as a side act, but as a shining force in her own right. By age 13, she had traveled across America and even abroad, captivating crowds who couldn't help but be enthralled by this musical firecracker from Texas. Her family recognized it was time to harness this swirling world of tours and performances. They formed their own band, showcasing the collective Mandrell artistry wherever they went. As they journeyed on the road, Barbara's drummer was a man named Ken Dudney. Little did she know that soon he would become far more than just a bandmate. Life on tour can be fast and exciting, but it can also forge connections that shape one's future. Barbara and Ken fell for each other, and after she graduated from Oceanside High School, they took their love story to the altar. Ken received a commission in the Navy and headed off to serve as a pilot overseas, while Barbara made a life-changing decision. She'd pursue a full-fledged career as a country singer and move to the heart of the industry, Nashville. It was a giant leap from traveling teenage performer to an ambitious artist gunning for the big time. But for Barbara, it was all part of the unstoppable current that had carried her from childhood. With her father managing her every move, she landed a deal with Columbia Records in 1969. Signing with a major label can be daunting for any artist, but imagine being a young performer whose entire life had already revolved around music. There was an unshakable confidence about Barbara. She wasn't just another hopeful belting out tunes in a studio. She was determined to make waves. Her new producer, Billy Sherrill, was already known for shaping the careers of towering figures like Tammy Wynette and Charlie Rich. She felt she was in excellent hands, but success is rarely instantaneous. Though she had a string of minor hits in those early years, nothing seemed to catapult her to immediate stardom. Industry folks began to whisper, why would Billy Sherrill keep investing in this starlet whose hits weren't climbing the charts as quickly as everyone hoped? But the seeds of greatness take time to bear fruit. And if there was one constant in Barbara's life, it was her unwavering drive to keep perfecting her craft. During her period at Columbia, Barbara scored her first chart success with a cover of Otis Redding's I've Been Loving You Too Long. It turned heads and ears, announcing to the music world that here was a rising singer unafraid to tackle soul classics and reshape them for country audiences. Over the next few years, she experimented with what came to be called country soul. This fusion tested boundaries, marrying the deep emotional currents of soul music with the heartfelt twang of country. At times, it wasn't the simplest route to easy popularity. Barbara's artistry was more complex than the typical straightforward honky-tonk. Though she worked tirelessly, mainstream success was elusive in that early phase. And by 1975, she parted ways with Columbia Records. Soon, Barbara signed with ABC/Dot, where she teamed up with producer Tom Collins, a creative partnership that would launch her into the stratosphere. Freed from the constraints of her earlier contract, Barbara found fresh energy in the studio. There was a new polish to her music, a sharper sense of what her voice could do, and a strategy that capitalized on her immense talent. It didn't take long for the hits to start flowing. By 1978, she had her very first Billboard #1 single with Sleeping Single in a Double Bed, a playfully cheeky tune that soared across radio stations nationwide. Spurred by that momentum, she followed up immediately with I've Been Loving You Too Long. The early 1980s became her golden era. Her singles, songs like Crackers and Wish You Were Here, were waltzing their way into the top 10, carrying listeners along with infectious beats and endearing storytelling. I Was Country. When country wasn't cool, it became something of an anthem, complete with a guest appearance by George Jones that made fans absolutely swoon. It's as though Barbara discovered the perfect alchemy of voice, style, and personality that appealed to die-hard country loyalists as well as newcomers curious about the genre. She continued releasing chart-topping hits such as Till You're Gone and One of a Kind Pair of Fools, solidifying her reputation for delivering songs that balance sincerity and showmanship in equal measure. Of course, Barbara's dynamic presence wasn't going to remain confined to concert stages and radio play. She soon ventured into television. Imagine her stepping onto NBC's shiny set, where she hosted Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters, a variety show that premiered in 1980. This production gave her and her sisters a platform to sing, dance, and entertain with comedic sketches. Viewers got a glimpse of that tight-knit sibling bond as the Mandrell sisters blended family warmth with the electric flair of primetime TV. The show's popularity soared, attracting fans who tuned in each week to enjoy lighthearted banter, top-notch singing, and special guest stars. Meanwhile, Barbara's acting opportunities began to multiply. In 1984, she starred in a film called Burning Rage alongside Tom Wopat, diving into a scripted drama that showcased her versatility. Over the years, she made guest appearances on programs like Touched by an Angel, Empty Nest, Diagnosis Murder, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, Baywatch, Walker, Texas Ranger, and even The Rockford Files. The unstoppable synergy of her music career, her variety program, and these guest spots made her one of the most visible faces in the entertainment world of that era. However, life has a way of testing even the brightest stars. In 1984, just as she was riding the crest of her success, Barbara's world was shaken by a devastating car accident on September 11th. The severity of the crash left her with multiple fractures in her right leg, including a broken thigh bone, knee, and ankle. She also suffered significant cuts and scrapes and, perhaps most alarmingly, a severe concussion that led to memory loss, confusion, and impaired speech. The lively entertainer who had spent her entire life in motion was suddenly faced with the terrifying possibility that she might never return to the stage or studio. For fans, friends, and family, it was a collective heartbreak. That radiant presence they adored seemed momentarily extinguished. Yet it was in those challenging months of rehabilitation, nearly a year and a half, that Barbara's iron will and unwavering spirit emerged in full force. She engaged in physical therapy, sometimes painfully pushing through the exercises needed to strengthen her leg and regain basic mobility. Mentally, she had to fight through the fog of confusion brought on by her concussion. For a woman who had been so innately tuned to her body and her music, losing that sense of mental clarity was truly daunting. Yet slowly, day by day, she progressed. And then, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Barbara Mandrell returned. The road to recovery was neither quick nor easy, but this determined woman refused to let adversity write the final pages of her story. She went back to performing gradually at first, then wholeheartedly, reconnecting with fans eager to cheer on her comeback. In the meantime, Barbara had also been exploring another dimension of her creativity, writing. In 1990, she published her autobiography, Get to the Heart, My Story, which climbed the New York Times bestseller list and stayed there for more than 3 months. Readers were riveted by her candid revelations, the joy and stress of achieving stardom, the intense love she felt for her family, and the dark moments of the accident and subsequent recovery. The book was adapted into a CBS television movie starring Maureen McCormick as Barbara, introducing another wave of viewers to the singer's extraordinary life. Book tours and television interviews followed, on everything from Sally Jessy Raphael to Oprah, where Barbara was honored as Woman of the World in 1992. Suddenly, her voice reached beyond music, offering inspiration to anyone grappling with hardships of their own. As her star continued to shine, she landed primetime TV appearances, including a memorable spot on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. She popped up on Ralph Emery's Nashville Now and surprised audiences by showcasing a playful side during one of her 3 visits to Arsenio. In these appearances, one could see the bright spark that had always defined her, that gentle Texas twang, that unstoppable positivity, and the charming way she invited everyone to share in her passion for country music. While her name remained luminous throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Barbara branched out into new realms. She maintained a recurring role on the daytime drama Sunset Beach, created by the prolific producer Aaron Spelling, who was personally enamored with her. He felt her warm, inviting presence would enhance one of his many soap opera projects. In cameo appearances on a variety of shows, Barbara seemed fully at ease, demonstrating that same unstoppable twinkle, whether she was belting out a ballad, bantering in comedic sketches, or delivering heartfelt dramatic lines. She held a unique place in American entertainment, one foot planted in the old school tradition of variety shows and stage performances, and the other foot stepping boldly into the new wave of modern television drama. In her personal life, Barbara continued to stand by Ken Dudney, the man who'd been there since the early days when she was just starting to make her mark. They had married on May 28, 1967, and together they raised 3 children, Kenneth Matthew, Jaime Nicole, and Nathaniel. Through ups and downs, Ken remained her rock, supporting her unwavering pursuit of musical excellence and the draining path to recovery after her accident. For many fans, their long-standing marriage became a real-life testament to love's endurance in an industry often dominated by short-lived relationships. It wasn't uncommon for interviewers to ask Barbara about her secret to balancing a flourishing career with family life. Her replies always exuded gratitude for Ken's devotion and her children's understanding, along with the unwavering sense of family that had characterized her life from the very beginning. But let's not forget her sisters, Thelma Louise and Ellen. Both of them were well-regarded singers in their own right, forging their paths within the country music sphere. And while Barbara's stardom soared higher, she never lost sight of the shared bond that began in their childhood living room. Their variety show together highlighted that sisterly camaraderie, harmonizing on stage, playfully ribbing each other, and creating a sense of familial closeness that audiences loved. That familial synergy was not just a media gimmick. It ran deep in their personal lives, as all 3 continued to support each other's endeavors long after the cameras stopped rolling. One of the lesser-known facets of Barbara's success was her keen ability to adapt. In an industry that often sees hot artists burn out before the next wave of talent arrives, Barbara understood the importance of evolving. Early in her career, she dabbled with the country soul style under Billy Sherrill, even though it didn't yield meteoric success. Yet each small step laid the foundation for the more refined artistry that emerged when she recorded with producer Tom Collins. She had no qualms about trying new sounds, occasionally weaving elements of pop or other genres into her music, as long as it served the story of the song and resonated with her audience. Imagine her on stage in those iconic 1980s outfits, sparkling dresses or jumpsuits studded with rhinestones, all accompanied by a warm, confident grin that made every note feel personal. Fans came to her concerts prepared to be wowed, not just by her singing, but by the multi-instrumentalist flair she had honed since childhood. She might pick up an accordion, switch to a banjo, then glide over to the steel guitar. There was often a gleam in her eye, as if to say, "Yes, I'm a star, but I'm also the same girl who fell in love with music when I was barely tall enough to hold a guitar." Though the 1984 accident cast a long shadow, it never defined her. Instead, it spotlighted her determination to keep going. Her comeback story, much like her career itself, was drenched in heart and perseverance. She proved time and again that a devastating twist of fate could not permanently sideline her. When she was back in front of those footlights, microphone in hand, it was easy to forget that she had ever been anything but unstoppable. That's the power of a truly passionate artist. They share their journey, lows and all, with the audience, transforming what could have been a tragedy into a beacon of hope for others. In the early 1990s, Barbara began to take a step back from her breakneck schedule. She had been a fixture in the music business for decades, and the constant touring, recording, and public appearances could wear on anyone. Yet, as she scaled down some of her commitments, she found fresh angles to explore, like writing, philanthropic endeavors, and quietly supporting younger artists who saw her as both an idol and a mentor. That's another aspect that defined her. She never forgot how it felt to be that little girl at the Chicago Music Convention, thrilling a room full of professionals, and she wanted to pay it forward to the next generation of dreamers. Her influence on other entertainers is unmistakable. Modern country stars who focus on showmanship, cross-genre experimentation, or family-themed collaborations can often trace their inspiration back to Barbara Mandrell. She showed the world that being country didn't have to fit a narrow mold. You could have a little funk, a pinch of soul, a dash of pop, and as long as it sprang from sincerity, the fans would stay with you. Barbara paved the way for countless artists who wanted to blend multiple styles without abandoning their Southern roots. And to think it all started with a steel guitar and an ambitious father who recognized that sparkle in his little girl's eyes. Her story underscores the significance of family, how crucial it is to have people around you who share your dreams and bolster you when obstacles arise. Barbara and her family band hopped across the globe, entertaining troops and enthralling audiences with a brand of showmanship that was as heartfelt as it was technically impressive. It's a testament to the Mandrell clan's steadfast faith in music's power to transform lives. From the highest pinnacles of chart success to the darkest days following her accident, Barbara's life remained a testament to grit, devotion, and the unbreakable bond between a performer and her audience. She captured hearts on stage, in living rooms across the country via television, and in the pages of her autobiography. Even in cameo roles on shows like Touched by an Angel, her presence radiated warmth. Audiences responded to that intangible glow, the sense that no matter what storm she faced, she brought laughter and love wherever she went. For fans who followed her in real time, each new phase of her career was a chance to celebrate her unwavering spirit. For newer admirers discovering her decades later, perhaps stumbling upon classic performances online, it's a revelation to see how thoroughly she embraced the musical life and how deeply that love shaped everything she did. She wasn't just playing music, she was living it. Every chord, every line, every breath was an extension of her relationship with those countless fans who sang along and supported her through triumphs and trials. These days, when we look back at Barbara Mandrell's storied career, it's impossible not to be struck by the breadth of her accomplishments. Chart-topping singles, an iconic TV variety show, a slew of awards, an enduring marriage, 3 children, a brush with death in that horrible crash, a triumphant return to the spotlight. Her narrative has all the ingredients of a legendary country ballad. Yet it's more than just headlines and accolades. It's a deeply personal story about a woman who found her soul's calling and poured her entire being into it, never losing her sense of gratitude or her determination to make the most of every second. Fans still talk about the day she took the stage again after her accident, tears welling up not just in her eyes, but in the eyes of everyone who watched, fully aware of the steep road she had traveled. That comeback performance was more than a show. It was a moment of collective triumph, a testament that sometimes a broken leg, a bruised spirit, or the doubts of the naysayers cannot hold back a talent that burns so brightly. And if you listen closely, you might still hear an echo of her father's earlier words of encouragement, urging her to keep playing, keep experimenting, and keep dazzling the world with her gift. Barbara Mandrell's life is a story of triumph, perseverance, and the power of music to connect with millions of hearts. Despite facing significant challenges, her influence on country music and her inspiring resilience continue to resonate with fans around the world. If you enjoyed learning about the life of Barbara Mandrell, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more incredible stories about the icons of music and entertainment. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.